Okay, so that's the groceries done. Yay. Okay, so a couple of tips for you. Number one, I was chatting to a lady who was in the line up behind me, and she was saying all her Christmas shopping is done. You know, she's like myself, doing just the last drips and drabs. So what I said to her was, by the way, if you've forgotten everything and you need to come back into a big store like Walmart or something, I said, come after 9. She said, why? And I said, because if you think about it, all the single moms are at home. A lot of the mothers with children are at home. And by the way, there's also good time, sometimes about 6, when 5 or 6, when the children are all being fed. So I said, you know, but normally after 9, you can pretty much have the store to yourself. You know, I mean, there may be 1 or 2 people in each aisle, but not, you know, you're not sort of losing your cool in each aisle. So that's number 1 tip. Now the other one is this. I have done the first of 3 stores that I want to go to, and I know what you're saying, Sal, but you just got groceries. Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't know too many people that want to break into cars with groceries in them, so I always start with the groceries. Yes, I've got some frozen foods. And by the way, it's pretty cold out there, like 2 degrees. So as soon as I turn the car off, you know, it's going to be pretty cool. So I'm not too worried. And then also the fact that all the frozen stuff is packed together, you know, it sort of acts as its own insulation, if you like. Now, I've got to go to a totally different store, another supermarket store, because I could not get mincemeat for mincemeat pies, and chocolate wafers I need to get, so I've got to go to the other store. But luckily those 2 things are hopefully going to be fairly easy to get. I can't believe I've been to Walmart twice trying to get mincemeat and haven't been able to either time. So I'm going to go to Save-On, because I'm pretty sure they'll have it, and they definitely have the chocolate wafers. And then my third option is to go to Safeway. I intend to get them today. Now I'm doing it in that order because Safeway is next to the dollar store, and I do need to pop in there. So I'm doing pretty well. Oh, tip number 2. Tip number 2 is, before you go from one store to the next, check if you need a washroom. It's like having children. But for example, what I did is I went down, put all my groceries in the car, and then, you know, locked up my car, and then went back to the washroom. That way I'm not worried about what's in my cart, or anybody stealing anything, or any of that sort of stuff. And I know I'm good to go for hopefully another hour or so. Which means I'm not panicking at the next place. Just a thought. Planning. And the time now is 3:41. This is good. If I can get back by 6, I'll be very happy camper. I think I'll be back way before then. But let's see how I do it. You know, I'm a very curious person by nature. I think a lot of you know that. So I get into the elevator with my cart, and there was a wonderful woman there with her mother, who obviously was a lot older than I am. And so I stood back to let the older lady go first. I was taught that a long time ago, and I still do it. But anyway, you know, she was so grateful, and I said, well, I think you beat me in age a little bit. And she said, actually quite a bit. And I said, really? She was 97, I think. Amazing. And she didn't look more than about 80 something. And I said, well, while I've got you here, would you mind telling me how you did that? And she said, I played golf a lot in my life. And she thinks it was all that walking when she was playing golf that, helped. And then her daughter said to me, and we still walk every day. And I said, really? For how long? And she said, about 2 hours. And I said, wow. But they do it in a creative way. They'll go shopping. And like me, when they go shopping, they go up and down all the aisles just to get the steps in. But she said, they just go to different places. It's amazing if the weather is bad, how much walking you can get in just window shopping, if you've got that control. Window shopping in a large mall. I had a friend of mine who lived in Maine, and whenever he needed to lose weight, that's what he did in the winter, was go to the local mall and just walk the mall a couple of times, and that's how he lost weight. The other thing was the daughter mentioned was fresh air. She thinks that there's something about getting out into the fresh air that also is very good for the body. So, interesting to know. So for those of us who are bad about that, I being one of them, let's try and work on getting out during the winter, even though we may not want to. And I would suggest, 10 minutes out is better than no minutes out, as usual. So that was that side of it. She looked wonderful. I mean, I would have put her in her 80s maximum, not in her 90s. And she was walking pretty well. So is it. Now then, when I went back to go to the washroom quickly, there was a woman coming out of the washroom, and she nearly ran me over. She had a cart full of different suitcases, which struck me as strange. But I sort of tipped, because she nearly ran me over, and it put me off balance. And so I sort of tipped like this, and she screamed at me to get my hands off her stuff. Well, my hands were not on her stuff, but I decided just to let it go because, it's Christmas. And there but for fortune go I, as far as I'm concerned. But the lady coming out of the washroom area behind her said she did the same to her, except she really did a number on her, and this lady was really put out by it. And I just said to her, it's okay, just take it easy. I said, who knows what her mental state is, and I said, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure her life is in those suitcases. I think she was a homeless lady. And then the other woman said to me, or half the store. Well, yeah, that's possible. But I prefer to think of it that she wasn't a thief. I think she just was very protective of her stuff. And she was pretty elderly as well, and that makes her more vulnerable to that sort of thing. Anyway, I was about to leave, and I just realized that this woman really had been quite shocked and was in a little bit of trauma because of it. So I looked at her and I said, well, it is the season, so I have a question to ask of you. And she said, what's that? I said, would it be okay if I gave you a hug to make up for it? Well, I wish you could have seen her reaction. It was so darn cute. And I enjoyed it too. I got a hug today. Yay. Little things mean a lot to people. Remember that.